A few weeks ago, Jimmy Murphy brought up the name of Pavel Zacha possibly being available from the Boston Bruins. Well, this weekend, he mentioned that Casey Mittelstadt may also be available from the Boston Bruins. Of course, Jimmy's based in Boston. But everybody started saying after that, hey, maybe because his brother Luke is here, we could bring Casey on board and he could be our number 2 center. And if my grandfather had boobs, he'd be my grandmother. Hey gang, Coach here from Puck Talk Montreal, and I'm just starting to get a little bit fed up with, the let's take something and throw it on the wall and see if it sticks way of doing podcasts out there. Let's bring up stupid ideas and see whether or not they work. The other day I saw somebody, I forget where I saw it, but somebody put up something on YouTube talking about how Ryan O'Reilly would be a great fit in Montreal. You get Ryan O'Reilly in Montreal, he's no longer your number 2 center. He's your number 1, and Nick Suzuki becomes your de facto number 2. Let's get that straight to begin with. But to say that the Montreal Canadiens would have enough cap space to go get Ryan O'Reilly and then re-sign Hudson and Demidov in the next couple of seasons, and I'm trying to find out where you get your ganja from. You have to be logical about all this, guys, and it's not everything that can happen. There's a salary cap. There's limitations for every team now. If you want to bring something in, you don't have enough space to bring everything in. You got to get rid of something, right? We all know the topic du jour about the salary cap and how it hinders teams from growing the way we'd like. That's a discussion for another day that we've had a million times over. But now we get the discussion about Casey Mittelstadt, who was traded from the Colorado Avalanche over to the Bruins along with Will Zellers and a second-round pick just last year. Here's the fun part. Middlestadt was the throw-in for that deal. Why? Because Middlestadt's game since leaving the Buffalo Sabres has really tanked. Over the last 2 seasons, he's only had 50 points. So you want to take a guy who barely has 50 points in 2 years and you want to make him your second-line center? Let me give you the keys to the Canadiens' locker room. You can't be serious. I think about it logically. If you've got a guy on your roster right now in Joe Veleno, who had 42 points last year or something to that effect, I'd have to look it up, but he had more than whatever it was that Middlestadt put up. What was it that he did last year between the two teams? He had 40 points. I'm pretty sure Veleno had just as many with one team, right? And that's playing third-line minutes or fourth-line minutes with the Detroit Red Wings. Not too shabby, right? With limited ice time. Middlestadt, on the other hand, he was getting all kinds of ice time with Colorado. And couldn't do anything with it. So he ended up getting traded to Boston. Boston didn't even want him. It was just a throw-in. They really wanted Will Zellers. And that's according to Jimmy, of course. So why in the world would the Canadiens want to take Middlestadt off their hands? Oh, people are thinking, well, he's going to play with his brother Luke. What guarantees do you have that Luke's going to make it to the National Hockey League? We've seen other players flame out before. Doesn't mean that he's going to get there. He's a great prospect, don't get me wrong, but there's no guarantees. Casey, of course, is a former first-round draft pick, and we know that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon like to go out there and get first-round picks or former first-round picks and give them a chance. But why would you even think about it? Why? You just went out and got Veleno, right? And whether it's Veleno or whether it's Middlestadt at this point, it really doesn't make a damn bit of difference, right? At the same, we're going to think it's pretty much the same player, except that Veleno has something to prove because he's pretty much on his last contract in the NHL, unless he can show that he could still play at an elite level. And then you've got, Casey Mittelstadt, whose game is starting to go the other way. And yes, he's still young, but that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he's an NHL veteran and his game is going south. So why would I want to take that chance on Middlestadt just because his brother's here? No. And in speaking about brothers, the Canadiens have had good and they've had bad on the Montreal Canadiens. There's been good and bad everywhere in the National Hockey League. So let's start with the good. Of course, right now, Florian Jacki and his brother Arbor are in the system together. One day, everybody hopes that both of them will be on the Montreal Canadiens at the same time. It would be great for Mom. It would be great for the family. But will it be great for the team? It remains to be seen. Because when you talk about two guys that like to drop the mitts, I have a hard time having two guys on the same team who are brothers that may very well jump somebody because they're attacking their brother. I know the coaching staff can talk to them, but in the heat of the moment, you never know what might happen. And do you really want to take that chance? If I was a coach, I wouldn't want to do it. If I was the GM, unless the kid was a superstar and Florian is slowly starting to show his hockey IQ and his abilities, then maybe I might do it. But it's not an automatic for me. Next up, I put this picture in and I just wanted to delete it. The Kostitsyn brothers, Sergei on the left, and you've got Andre on the right. Now these guys, both super talented, excellent hockey players. The one issue with them, dumb as nails. They got involved with the local Russian mob, were out all the time, getting into trouble, even pulled in Alex Galchenyuk at one point. And what happened? They all got moved eventually. This is a brother on the same team scenario that just didn't go well for the Canadiens. Then you've got the Mahovlich brothers, Frank and Peter, one of the best duos, brother duos in National Hockey League history. It's kind of rare to see brothers like that who are the same size, same talent level as Frank and Peter. And, you know, it's a great picture here of them holding the Stanley Cup. But the other good thing about these two guys that you don't see very often is both brothers were on the 72 Summit Series team, which is another great thing for them because they represented Canada. We won the series, which is always great to talk about, but, you know, it's a rarity. And I'm happy to see that, like, the Canadiens had some happiness. And, of course, there's the obvious one, the Rocket, the Pocket Rocket. Although the Pocket Rocket doesn't look too thrilled to be in this picture with his brother, the two of them were both former captains of the Montreal Canadiens. Henri Richard winning the most Stanley Cups of any player in Canadian history. Maurice Richard, an icon in the province of Quebec. Nothing to be said there, right? Of course, because the brothers were absolutely fantastic. And you look elsewhere around the National Hockey League, you've got the Ben brothers, Jordy and Jamie. I like this picture better because Jordy's actually got his beard, and Jordy, of course, is a former Montreal Canadien. Then you've got the Hughes brothers in New Jersey. Quinn, of course, is in Vancouver, but Jack and Luke are both with the New Jersey Devils. And they have no issues. Again, one's a defenseman, one's a forward. Then you take a look at the Sedin twins. Probably the best brother tandem to play together over a long stretch of time in NHL history. They started together, they retired together. That's not something you see very often. That's why they're legends in Vancouver. I mean, whatever Brian Burke did back then to get both of them, he knew what he was doing, and it worked out well for the Vancouver Canucks over the long term. Never got them to a Stanley Cup. Did get to one final, but they're legends in Vancouver. And there's no doubt that these two brothers, they were some of the best players in NHL history. Then you've got Jordan and Eric Stahl, who played together with the Carolina Hurricanes. And that's pretty much it. So you did have good and bad when it came to brothers. But it's not a reason to bring a guy on thinking that he's going to succeed because his brother plays for the Montreal Canadiens. It's not. If Casey Mittelstadt was consistent throughout his career and had 40, 50, maybe 60 points on a regular basis, then maybe I might look at it being an option for the Canadiens because it looks like it's a salary dump by the Boston Bruins. But I'm not going to do it just solely because his brother Luke is in the organization and may or may not play with the Habs. Right now, he's with the Laval Rocket. Right now, there's no space for Luke on the Canadiens roster. So why would there be room for Casey? Think about it. Casey, his game is not going well. Maybe coming to Montreal would be a blessing in disguise and change his game all the way around. But from what I'm heard, his attitude is garbage. So why would I want to take that chance? You've got a locker room in Montreal that's filled with character players. Guys that want to be here. Guys that get along. Guys that laugh. You know the whole drill. It's the best room probably in the National Hockey League. I'd have to ask other people about it, but I'm going to make that assumption because that's all we hear. You know, how players want to come to Montreal because the room is so tight. Well, you know, why would you want to break that up? by bringing in somebody that might stir the pot a little bit. So I don't want Casey Mittelstadt here. I don't think you do either. Put it in your comments. Let me know. Take a look at his numbers. Take a look at some video. Tell me. I don't think he fits in Montreal as the second line center. And we've already got a third and fourth line center, so we don't need to bring him in for that. There's a specific need. And Montreal needs to address that need. If they're going to go out and get a Mason McTavish or they're going to go out and get a Pavel Zacha, I can get down with that, depending on what the return is, obviously. But if you're going to go out just to throw spaghetti at the wall to see if it sticks, I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is, I wouldn't say cold hard facts, but rumors that make sense. Ideas that would be outside the box. What's your idea outside the box? Outside of Pavel Zacha? Outside of McTavish? Can you put together a scenario where you think the Canadiens might actually want to make a move to get another center from another team, even if he's not available, but you think he might be if the deal is right? Put it in the comments. It could make for an interesting discussion, wouldn't it? And then give me your impressions about brothers playing together on hockey teams. Like I said, it doesn't happen often. Okay, granted, you've got the Sutter brothers that played together. I think it was, there were a couple of them that played together with the New York Islanders. I think there were 3, Daryl, Rich, and Ron, that actually played for the Chicago Blackhawks at the exact same time, or it was Brent. I don't know. There were 6 of them. Who knows how many of them? I know that it was Daryl. I know that Ron was there. Now, whether or not it was Brent, who knows? But at the end of the day, the Sutter brothers played together, and they were renowned throughout the National Hockey League because all 6 brothers made it to the NHL. That's about as rare as you can bloody get. But the idea of having brothers together can be dangerous. So tell me what you think about it. I want to know. Am I wrong in thinking that way? Because I've had brothers on teams that I've coached, and I found it problematic. But again, that's minor league hockey. It's not the NHL. Let me know what you think, and maybe I'll bring the subject back up and we can discuss it again. Bye for now.